Welcome to Unsolved Historical Mysteries. Missing 411: The Unexplained Disappearances in U.S. National Parks. Chapter 1 Introduction. The Missing 411 Phenomenon. Section 1 What is Missing 411? Have you ever heard of the term Missing 411? If not, you're about to enter one of the strangest and most chilling mysteries in modern history. It's a phenomenon that has puzzled researchers, haunted families, and left countless questions unanswered. Missing 411 refers to a series of unexplained disappearances in U.S. national parks and other remote areas. The term was coined by David Paulides, a former police detective turned investigator, who has spent years compiling cases of people who vanished under bizarre and often unexplainable circumstances. At first glance, one might think these are just ordinary missing persons cases. People getting lost in the wilderness due to accidents, bad weather, or even wild animals. After all, national parks cover vast and often treacherous landscapes, where hikers and campers sometimes meet unfortunate fates. But as Paulides dug deeper, he began to notice strange patterns in these cases that defied logic. For example, many of the victims disappeared without leaving any footprints, even in areas where the ground should have recorded them. Tracking dogs, trained to follow human scents, often refused to track or were unable to pick up any scent at all. Some bodies were found miles away in rugged terrain, places that would have been impossible for them to reach on their own, especially in such a short amount of time. Even more unsettling, some people were found alive, but had no memory of what had happened to them. One particularly chilling case involved a young boy who vanished near his family's campsite. Search teams combed the area for days, only to find the child miles away on top of a mountain ridge, an area he could not have climbed to on his own. He was found barefoot, yet his feet showed no signs of injury, despite the rocky terrain. Cases like this have left even experienced search and rescue teams completely baffled. The National Park Service (NPS), the agency responsible for managing U.S. national parks, has been notoriously silent on the issue. When Paulides requested official records of missing persons in these areas, he was met with resistance. The NPS claimed that no centralized database of missing persons exists, which only deepened suspicions. Why wouldn't they keep track of disappearances? Were they hiding something, or was there simply no proper system in place? Even more disturbing, families of the missing have reported strange encounters with park officials, who sometimes downplay the cases or refuse to provide information. This has led many to speculate that something far more mysterious is happening in these parks, something that authorities don't want the public to know. So, what exactly is going on here? Are these cases simply a result of natural accidents, or is there something far more sinister at play? In the next section, we'll take a closer look at the patterns that emerge in these disappearances, and why they suggest that this phenomenon is anything but ordinary. Section 2 Overview of the Mysterious Disappearances. Missing persons cases happen all the time, but the Missing 411 phenomenon is different. It's not just about people getting lost, it's about how they disappear, the eerie circumstances surrounding their vanishings, and the disturbing patterns that emerge when you look at the cases as a whole. David Paulides, the former detective who first uncovered this mystery, found that many of these disappearances share bizarre commonalities. People vanish in an instant, often with witnesses nearby. Some victims are experienced hikers or hunters, familiar with the terrain, making it unlikely that they simply got lost. Even more unsettling, Many cases involve strange environmental conditions. Thick fog rolling in suddenly, unexpected changes in weather or areas where electronics mysteriously stop working. Then there's the issue of search and rescue failures. In many missing 411 cases, highly trained rescue dogs fail to pick up a scent. Sometimes, they act strangely, whining, refusing to track, or leading searchers in circles. Even when helicopters and drones are used, no trace of the missing person is found, at least not right away. When bodies are discovered, the locations often defy logic. Some are found miles away from where they went missing, in areas almost impossible for them to reach on foot, especially within the time frame they were gone. Others are found in places that were already searched multiple times. In several cases, missing children have been found alive in remote, high-altitude areas, barefoot, yet showing no signs of injury, as if they had been transported there by some unknown force. Strangely, many disappearances occur near boulder fields, bodies of water, and dense forests, as if these locations hold some significance. And here's something even weirder. Some people vanish without their clothes or shoes, even in freezing temperatures. Searchers have reported finding neatly folded clothes, as if the victims undressed voluntarily before disappearing. The sheer number of cases and the eerie patterns that connect them suggest that something much more than simple misfortune is at play. Whether it's a natural phenomenon, an undiscovered predator, or something even stranger, one thing is certain: these disappearances cannot be easily explained. Next, we'll take a look at the man behind the investigation, David Paulides, and how he uncovered this disturbing mystery. Section 3: Why this mystery continues to baffle investigators. For decades, search and rescue teams, law enforcement, and even seasoned outdoorsmen have been left completely baffled by the strange cases that fall under the missing 411 phenomenon. While some disappearances could be explained by natural causes, there are many that simply defy all logic. One of the biggest reasons these cases remain unsolved is the lack of physical evidence. In typical missing persons investigations, authorities can often piece together what happened based on footprints, clothing, or signs of struggle. But in many missing 411 cases, these clues are completely absent. No tracks, no blood, no signs of an animal attack. It's as if the person vanished into thin air. Even more puzzling, when bodies are found, they are sometimes discovered in pristine condition, showing no obvious cause of death. In some cases, toxicology reports reveal no drugs or poisons, and autopsies fail to determine a clear explanation for how the person died. Some victims are found in places already searched multiple times, raising the disturbing question: were they there the whole time, or were they placed there later? Investigators are also frustrated by the behavior of the National Park Service (NPS). Despite the hundreds of cases reported, the NPS claims that no official database of missing persons in national parks exists. This lack of transparency has fueled theories that the government may be hiding something, whether it's knowledge of a natural but undiscovered danger, or something far stranger. Adding to the mystery, federal authorities often show little interest in these cases. Many families have reported receiving minimal help from law enforcement, with some even being actively discouraged from digging too deep. It's almost as if someone doesn't want these cases to be solved. So, what's really happening in these national parks? Why do authorities seem so reluctant to investigate? In the next chapter, we'll explore David Paulides' personal investigation and the shocking patterns he uncovered. Chapter 2: Strange Patterns in the Disappearances. Section 1: Common Characteristics of Missing 411 Cases. When you start examining missing 411 cases, a disturbing pattern emerges. These disappearances aren't random, they share bizarre similarities that make them stand out from typical missing persons cases. One of the most striking characteristics is how many victims vanish suddenly and silently. Hikers walking just a few steps behind a missing person report hearing nothing. No calls for help, no sounds of struggle. It's as if the person was instantly removed from the scene. Even stranger, in many cases where multiple people go missing together, only one person disappears, leaving the others completely unaware of what happened. Another unusual detail is that many missing individuals are found without their clothing or shoes, even in freezing temperatures. Some of their clothes are discovered, neatly folded, as if carefully placed rather than torn off in distress. This behavior is highly unusual and doesn't match typical cases of hypothermia, where victims often remove clothing in a state of confusion. Then, there's the issue of tracking dogs failing to find a scent. In many cases, highly trained bloodhounds refuse to track at all, act confused, or circle the same area before giving up. If a person had simply walked away, their scent should be easy to follow, but in missing 411 cases, it often disappears completely. Time and time again, search teams have encountered strange environmental conditions surrounding these cases. Sudden weather changes, such as unexpected snowstorms or dense fog, often interfere with search efforts. Some cases involve malfunctioning electronics, with searchers reporting that GPS devices, radios, and even compasses stop working near the disappearance site. Lastly, many of the victims share surprising similarities. A large number are young children, elderly individuals, or people with disabilities, meaning they are often the least likely to travel long distances alone. Yet, their bodies are sometimes found miles away in places they couldn't possibly reach on their own. These patterns challenge conventional explanations. How can experienced hikers vanish without a trace? Why do certain locations seem to attract these mysterious disappearances? In the next section, we'll explore where these cases tend to happen, and why certain areas may hold the key to unlocking the missing 411 mystery. Section 2: Locations, Age Groups, and Unusual Circumstances. As David Paulides investigated more cases, he noticed that certain locations seemed to be hotspots for these strange disappearances. While missing persons cases happen everywhere, the ones that fit the missing 411 profile occur disproportionately in specific types of terrain. Many of these vanishings take place near dense forests, steep mountains, remote lakes, and boulder fields. These are areas where navigation is difficult and search efforts are challenging. But the most puzzling detail? Some of these victims are found in locations that don't make sense, such as high elevations that would take hours or even days to reach. Yet they disappeared just moments before. Another common pattern is proximity to water. Rivers, creeks, and lakes are often involved, either near where the person was last seen or close to where their body is later found. Water complicates search operations, but in many cases, no signs of drowning or other water-related injuries are found, leaving authorities confused about how the person ended up there. Now, let's talk about who goes missing. The disappearances affect all demographics, but two groups stand out: young children between 2 to 6 years old, elderly individuals, especially those with cognitive impairments. These groups share one key trait: They are physically vulnerable and unlikely to travel long distances alone. And yet, many cases involve small children found miles away from where they vanished, sometimes in rugged terrain, barefoot, and showing no signs of exhaustion or injury. How could a toddler cover such a distance in a short period of time? It defies logic. On the other hand, some cases involve physically fit and highly experienced hikers. These are people who knew the terrain well, carried proper gear, and had no known health issues. Yet they disappeared as suddenly as the children. When their bodies are recovered, they're often missing shoes, socks, or even clothing, with no clear explanation. Then there are the unusual circumstances surrounding the last moments before a disappearance. Some people report feeling watched or uneasy just before someone vanishes. Others describe a sudden drop in sound, where birds stop chirping, the wind dies down, and an eerie silence takes over the area. These common elements, strange locations, specific age groups, and bizarre environmental factors raise chilling questions. Is there a natural but unknown force at work, or is something far more mysterious responsible for these disappearances? Next, we'll examine another disturbing aspect of this mystery: how authorities respond to these cases, and why they often refuse to discuss them. Section 3: The eerie silence from authorities. One of the most unsettling aspects of the missing 411 phenomenon isn't just the disappearances themselves. It's how authorities respond to them, or rather, how they don't respond. When a person goes missing in a national park, the National Park Service (NPS) and local law enforcement agencies are supposed to take action. Search and rescue teams are deployed, and families expect transparency. But in missing 411 cases, something strange happens. Officials seem unusually reluctant to discuss the details. David Paulides, the investigator behind the missing 411 research, has repeatedly requested official records on disappearances in national parks. Shockingly, the NPS claims that no centralized database of missing persons exists. In other words, they don't track how many people vanish in their parks. For an organization responsible for millions of acres of land and public safety, this seems highly suspicious. Even when families push for answers, they often encounter roadblocks. Some report being given conflicting information, while others say that officials downplay the case, insisting there's nothing unusual, even when the details clearly don't make sense. In some cases, families have even been discouraged from speaking publicly about their loved ones' disappearances. But perhaps the most chilling aspect is how quickly some cases are closed without explanation, even when bodies are recovered under mysterious circumstances, such as in areas that were previously searched multiple times. Investigators often refuse to speculate on what happened. Official causes of death are frequently listed as exposure or unknown circumstances, with little effort made to uncover the truth. Why would authorities avoid investigating these cases thoroughly? Some believe it's due to bureaucratic inefficiency, while others suspect a cover-up. Is it possible that the government knows more about these disappearances than they're letting on? In the next chapter, we'll shift our focus to David Paulides himself, and how he uncovered the terrifying patterns hidden within these cases. Chapter 3: The David Paulides Investigation. Section 1: Who is David Paulides? To understand the missing 411 mystery, we need to look at the man who uncovered it, David Paulides. His background, his investigative skills, and his relentless pursuit of the truth are the reasons we even know about these strange disappearances today. Paulides began his career as a police officer and detective in California. He specialized in criminal investigations, tracking down missing persons, and analyzing crime patterns. But after retiring from law enforcement, he turned his attention to a different kind of mystery, one that no one else seemed to be investigating. His journey into the missing 411 phenomenon started with a conversation with a park ranger. The ranger confided in Paulides that people were disappearing in national parks under highly unusual circumstances, cases that didn't follow the usual patterns of lost hikers or animal attacks. Even stranger, the National Park Service wasn't keeping track of these disappearances. This revelation sparked Paulides' curiosity, and he decided to investigate further. Using his skills as a detective, Paulides began collecting and analyzing hundreds of missing persons cases from national parks and remote wilderness areas. The deeper he dug, the more disturbing patterns he uncovered. These weren't just ordinary cases, there were eerie similarities, unexplained events, and a shocking lack of response from authorities. Paulides eventually compiled his findings into the Missing 411 book series, bringing public attention to cases that had been ignored or forgotten. His research challenged the official narratives, forcing people to ask, why are so many people vanishing? And why does no one seem to be talking about it? In the next section, we'll take a closer look at Paulides' research methods, how he gathered his data, the strict criteria he used to identify these cases, and why his findings remain one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of our time. Section 2: His research into unexplained vanishings. David Paulides' investigation into missing 411 cases wasn't just casual research. It was a meticulous, years-long effort to uncover patterns that no one else had noticed. His background in law enforcement gave him the skills to analyze crime reports, witness statements, and search and rescue logs. But what made his work stand out was the strict set of criteria he used to identify cases that fit the missing 411 mystery. Paulides focused only on cases where the disappearance could not be easily explained. These included no clear cause: the missing person was neither a victim of a known accident nor an obvious crime. No scent trail: search dogs failed to track the person or refused to follow the scent. Unusual recovery locations: if the person was found, they were often in a place already searched multiple times. Sudden environmental changes: many cases occurred right before or during strange weather events, such as unexpected storms or thick fog. To compile his research, Paulides spent countless hours filing Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) requests, seeking missing persons reports from the National Park Service (NPS) and other government agencies. But instead of cooperation, he was met with resistance. Officials either denied having records or demanded outrageous fees. One request was priced at over $1.4 million just to access basic data. Despite these obstacles, Paulides managed to gather hundreds of cases, identifying shocking trends. He discovered that many of the disappearances occurred in clusters, meaning certain national parks and wilderness areas had far more cases than others. These hotspots spanned across the United States and even parts of Canada, making it clear that this was a widespread phenomenon. Paulides also interviewed search and rescue experts, many of whom had personally encountered these baffling disappearances. Some described cases where experienced hikers vanished within minutes, leaving behind no clues. Others recalled times when electronics mysteriously malfunctioned in the search area, preventing communication and GPS tracking. What started as a simple inquiry into strange disappearances quickly turned into one of the most perplexing unsolved mysteries of modern times. But as Paulides dug deeper, he realized that some cases were so bizarre. They challenged everything we thought we knew about missing persons investigations. In the next section, we'll explore some of these key cases, the ones that truly defy logic and leave experts scratching their heads. Section 3: Key cases that changed the way we view these disappearances. Throughout his research, David Paulides uncovered cases so bizarre that they defy conventional explanations. These aren't just stories of lost hikers or unfortunate accidents. These are cases where the circumstances are so strange that they challenge everything we know about missing persons investigations. Case 1: The boy who vanished and reappeared miles away. One of the most unsettling cases involved a 2-year-old boy who disappeared near his family's campsite. His parents turned away for just a few moments, and when they looked back, he was gone. Search teams combed the area for days, but there were no footprints, no signs of an animal attack, and no clues about where he had gone. Then, several days later, the child was found miles away on top of a steep mountain ridge, a place he could not have reached on his own. Even more disturbing, he was found in good condition, with no scratches or injuries. Despite the rugged terrain and freezing temperatures, how did a toddler travel such a distance alone? And why did he have no memory of what had happened to him? Case 2: The experienced hiker who left no trace. A seasoned outdoorsman, known for his survival skills, went on a solo hiking trip in the Rocky Mountains. He was well prepared, in excellent physical condition, and carrying a GPS device. At one point, he even sent a text message to a friend, confirming that he was on the trail. Then, he simply vanished. Rescue teams scoured the area, but no signs of him were ever found. No footprints, no campsite, no clothing. His GPS device was never recovered, and there was no distress signal. How could an experienced hiker disappear so completely, leaving behind no trace? Case 3: The child found alive in impossible conditions. In another baffling case, a 3-year-old girl went missing in the Pacific Northwest. Her family searched desperately, but there were no signs of her. A week later, she was found sitting in a dense forest, miles from where she had vanished. She was calm, uninjured, and oddly quiet. When asked what happened, she simply said she had been with a big warm animal the entire time. But searchers found no evidence of an animal's presence, no tracks, and no signs of a den or shelter. What, or who, had kept her safe? These cases, and many more like them, are why the missing 411 phenomenon remains one of the most disturbing modern mysteries. The facts don't add up. The disappearances follow eerie patterns, and in many cases, the people who return have no memory of what happened. In the next chapter, we'll explore theories, from natural explanations to the most bizarre and unsettling possibilities. Chapter 4: Theories, Natural versus Supernatural Explanations. Section 1: Possible logical explanations. When confronted with the missing 411 phenomenon, the first instinct is to look for rational explanations. Could these cases be the result of natural causes, human error, or even just bad luck? While many disappearances can be explained, others remain deeply puzzling. Let's explore some of the most common logical theories. 1. Wild animal attacks. One of the first explanations authorities consider is predators such as bears, mountain lions, or wolves. It's possible that some victims were attacked and carried away, leaving little evidence behind. However, this theory has some major flaws. In many cases, search teams find no signs of a struggle, no blood, and no torn clothing. Furthermore, when bodies are found, they often show no signs of animal predation, making this explanation unlikely in many instances. 2. Accidental death and exposure. Another common theory is that the victims got lost, suffered from exposure, and succumbed to the elements. This is certainly possible, especially in cases where the weather changed suddenly. However, what makes many missing 411 cases unusual is where the bodies are found, sometimes in areas that were previously searched multiple times, or in places that seem impossible for the victim to have reached alone. 3. Human abductions or foul play. Could some of these cases be the result of kidnappings or violent crimes? While this theory makes sense in some cases, many disappearances happen deep in national parks, far from any roads or populated areas. Additionally, police rarely find any evidence of a struggle, footprints, or signs of human involvement. If foul play were involved, one would expect at least some trace of the perpetrator. 4. Underground caves and hidden dangers. Some researchers have speculated that victims fell into hidden caves, crevices, or abandoned mine shafts. The United States is home to thousands of unmapped caves, many of which are deep and nearly impossible to escape from. If someone fell into one, they could easily become trapped. However, this still doesn't explain cases where bodies are found miles away, or where small children are discovered in locations they couldn't have possibly reached alone. 5. Sudden medical emergencies. It's also possible that some individuals suffered a heart attack, stroke, or sudden loss of consciousness, leading them to collapse in an area where they couldn't be found. However, in cases where the missing person is later found alive, many report having no memory of what happened, which makes this theory less convincing. While these theories might explain some cases, they don't fully account for the bizarre details that appear again and again: missing shoes, bodies found in impossible locations, and search dogs that refuse to track. This is why some believe that something else might be happening, something far stranger than what logic alone can explain. In the next section, we'll explore the more unusual and supernatural theories that have been proposed to explain these eerie disappearances. Section 2: Unnatural or supernatural possibilities. While logical explanations might account for some missing 411 cases, there are others that seem to defy reason. This has led some researchers and theorists to explore supernatural or unconventional possibilities. Could something beyond our understanding be responsible for these strange disappearances? 1. Bigfoot or unknown cryptids. Some believe that a large, unidentified creature, such as Bigfoot, could be responsible for these vanishings. Witnesses have reported seeing strange, humanoid figures in the wilderness, and Native American legends describe creatures that kidnap humans. If such beings exist, could they be abducting people in remote areas? However, no physical evidence has ever confirmed this theory. 2. Alien abductions. Another possibility is extraterrestrial involvement. Some missing 411 cases feature witness reports of strange lights in the sky, electronic malfunctions, and missing time elements, often associated with UFO encounters. Could these disappearances be linked to alien abductions? While fascinating, this theory remains purely speculative. 3. Interdimensional portals. Some theorists suggest that certain national parks may contain portals to other dimensions. This could explain why some victims seem to vanish instantly, or reappear in locations that would have been impossible for them to reach. The idea of portals may sound far-fetched, but scientists have explored theories about wormholes and interdimensional travel in physics. Could natural rifts between dimensions exist on Earth? 4. Government experiments or cover-ups. There's also speculation that the U.S. government may be hiding something in these wilderness areas. Some believe that missing individuals accidentally wandered into secret testing zones or encountered classified experiments. The government's unusual secrecy about missing persons records has only fueled these suspicions. 5. Paranormal forces. Many cases include reports of strange fog, eerie silence, or a sudden feeling of dread just before a person disappears. Some cultures believe in forest spirits or supernatural entities that lure people away. Could there be an unknown energy or force responsible for these vanishings? While none of these theories have solid proof, they attempt to explain the bizarre nature of missing 411 cases. Cases that seem impossible under normal circumstances. In the next section, we'll examine why even these theories fail to explain all the missing persons cases, and why the truth remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of our time. Section 3. Why some theories fail to explain all cases. Many theories attempt to explain the missing 411 phenomenon, ranging from natural causes to supernatural forces, but no single explanation accounts for all the strange details found in these cases. 1. Inconsistencies in natural explanations. While wild animal attacks, hypothermia, or falls could explain some disappearances, they fail to address key anomalies. For instance, no blood, tracks, or torn clothing are found in cases where predators are suspected. Bodies appear in areas that were already searched, often in pristine condition. Young children travel impossible distances, sometimes over mountains or rivers, without any signs of exhaustion or injury. If these were normal missing persons cases, we would expect consistent patterns. But instead, we see bizarre irregularities that defy logic. 2. Why the supernatural theories don't fully fit. Theories about Bigfoot, portals, or alien abductions try to explain the more mysterious elements. But they also have weaknesses. No physical evidence supports these claims. No Bigfoot tracks. No UFO footage. No signs of interdimensional rifts. Many victims are eventually found, which wouldn't make sense if they were permanently abducted. If paranormal forces were responsible, why do they seem to follow specific patterns? Like targeting national parks? While these ideas are intriguing, they raise just as many questions as they answer. 3. The government's role in competence or cover-up. One of the most suspicious aspects of missing 411 is the lack of official records. The National Park Service claims they don't track missing persons in a centralized database. But why? Is this bureaucratic failure, or is there a deeper reason? They don't want to share this information? If they are covering something up, what are they hiding? While some suspect classified government experiments, others believe the authorities simply don't want to admit they have no control over these vanishings. The truth remains a mystery. Despite decades of research, no single theory fully explains what's happening in these cases. The disappearances remain one of the most disturbing and unsolved mysteries of our time. In the next chapter, we'll examine some of the most bizarre and unexplainable cases, ones that continue to leave investigators completely baffled. Chapter 5. The most bizarre missing 411 cases. Section 1. Case 1. The boy who vanished and reappeared miles away. Of all the missing 411 cases, Some of the most disturbing involve young children who disappear under impossible circumstances. One such case is that of a 2-year-old boy who vanished from a remote campsite, only to be found miles away in a location he couldn't have reached on his own. The disappearance. The incident took place in a national park, where the boy was on a camping trip with his family. One afternoon, as his parents prepared food, he was playing just a few feet away. They turned their backs for only a few seconds, and when they looked again, he was gone. At first, they assumed he had wandered off into the nearby trees. But after several minutes of searching and calling his name, there was no sign of him. Panic set in, and they immediately contacted park rangers. Within hours, a full-scale search and rescue operation was launched, involving tracking dogs trained to follow human scents, helicopters and drones scanning the area from above, hundreds of volunteers combing the terrain. Despite these efforts, no trace of the child was found. Even the tracking dogs, normally highly reliable, failed to pick up a scent, behaving as if the boy had simply vanished into thin air. The impossible discovery. After several days, a hiker discovered the child, sitting calmly on a mountain ridge, over 10 miles away from the campsite. The rescue team was stunned. How could a 2-year-old have traveled such a vast distance through rough, mountainous terrain, without shoes, food, or water? What made this case even more bizarre were the conditions in which he was found. He was mostly unharmed, with only minor scratches despite the rugged terrain. His clothes were clean, and he showed no signs of exhaustion or dehydration. He had no memory of what had happened or how he got there. Unanswered questions. How did a toddler travel such a long distance alone, when even experienced hikers would struggle with the journey? Why was he in good condition, despite spending days exposed to the elements? And why did search teams fail to find him in an area they had already checked? Some researchers have speculated about wild animals carrying him away, disoriented wandering, or even unknown human involvement. But none of these theories explain the lack of footprints, the absence of injuries, or his strange reappearance in an unreachable location. This case is just one of many that defy logic. It raises the chilling question: are these people really getting lost? Or is something else taking them? In the next section, we'll look at another bizarre case: an experienced hiker who disappeared without a trace, leaving behind no clues at all. Section 2, Case 2: The experienced hiker who left no trace. Not all missing 411 cases involve young children or vulnerable individuals. Some of the most perplexing disappearances involve highly skilled hikers and outdoorsmen, people who should have been the least likely to get lost. One such case is that of a seasoned hiker who vanished without leaving a single clue. The disappearance. The man, in his mid-50s, was an experienced outdoorsman who had spent years hiking in remote areas. He knew how to navigate, had survival training, and was well prepared for emergencies. On the day he disappeared, he set off on a solo hike in a well-known mountain range, following a clearly marked trail. He wasn't completely off the grid. He had a GPS device, a satellite phone, and had checked in with park rangers before starting his hike. He also sent a text message to a friend, confirming that he was on the trail and everything was fine. But just a few hours later, he vanished. When he failed to return by nightfall, authorities launched a search operation. The efforts included helicopters scanning the area from above, search dogs trying to pick up his scent, hundreds of volunteers searching the trails and nearby forests. Despite their efforts, there was no trace of him. Not a single footprint, no dropped gear, no sign of a struggle. It was as if he had walked into thin air. The bizarre clues. In most missing persons cases, at least some evidence is found. But in this case, every lead came up empty. What made it even stranger was, his GPS device and satellite phone were never found, despite being trackable. Search dogs were unable to pick up his scent, something highly unusual for a missing person in the wilderness. The area where he disappeared was not dangerous, and he had hiked it many times before. Even after weeks of searching, authorities never found a single clue about what happened to him. Unanswered questions. How does an experienced hiker, fully equipped with GPS and survival gear, disappear without a trace? If he had fallen or gotten lost, searchers should have found some evidence, his backpack, clothing, or even footprints. But there was nothing. Could he have been abducted, disoriented by an unknown force, or encountered something beyond human explanation? His case remains one of the most baffling disappearances on record. In the next section, we'll examine an even stranger case. A child who was found alive in a location that seemed impossible to reach. Section 3, Case 3, the child found alive in impossible conditions. Some missing 411 cases end in tragedy, with search teams recovering bodies under bizarre and unexplained circumstances. But others take an even stranger turn, where missing individuals, often children, are found alive in locations that seem utterly impossible for them to reach. One of the most baffling cases involves a 3-year-old girl who disappeared in a dense forest, only to be found days later in a place that defies logic. The disappearance. The girl had been playing outside her family's remote cabin, just a few feet from her parents. The area was surrounded by thick woods, but she had never wandered far before. Suddenly, in the blink of an eye, she was gone. Her parents immediately searched the area, calling her name, but there was no response. Within an hour, a search and rescue operation was launched, with teams combing the heavily wooded terrain. The search included tracking dogs, which strangely refused to follow a scent, helicopters scanning from above, but finding no sign of movement, hundreds of volunteers searching every trail and pathway. Despite these efforts, no trace of her was found. As night fell, the temperature dropped dangerously low, and hopes of finding her alive began to fade. The impossible discovery. After 2 days, the girl was found miles away from where she had vanished, deep in the wilderness, in an area so rugged that even experienced hikers avoided it. She was discovered sitting quietly under a tree, appearing calm and unafraid. What made this case so eerie was, she had no major injuries, despite the harsh terrain. Her clothes were mostly clean, without signs of being dragged through the forest. She was unable to explain what had happened, except to say that she had been with a big warm animal the whole time. Unanswered questions. How did a 3-year-old child travel so far, through dense forest, rivers, and rocky cliffs, without food, water, or proper clothing? Why did she have no scratches or signs of exhaustion? And what exactly did she mean by a big warm animal? Some have speculated that she may have been carried by a large predator, but experts argue that a bear or mountain lion wouldn't have protected her. It would have attacked. Others suggest a human abduction, but again, no footprints, tire tracks, or evidence of another person were ever found. Cases like this challenge everything we know about missing persons investigations. How are these children surviving in conditions that should be fatal? And why do so many return with no memory of what happened? In the next chapter, we'll examine another mystery, Why the government seems so reluctant to release information on these disappearances. Chapter 6: The government's silence and lack of data. Section 1: Why won't the National Park Service release official records? One of the strangest aspects of the missing 411 phenomenon isn't just the disappearances themselves, it's the government's reluctance to discuss them. You'd think that a federal agency responsible for public safety would keep detailed records of missing persons in national parks. But according to the National Park Service (NPS), they don't. The missing records. When David Paulides began researching these cases, he filed Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) requests to obtain a list of missing persons from various national parks. The response? The NPS claimed they don't keep a centralized database of missing persons. Some parks said they had no records at all, despite documented cases of disappearances. When Paulides pressed further, the government demanded over $1.4 million in fees just to access basic information. This raised serious questions. How can a federal agency responsible for millions of acres of land not track how many people go missing? And why would they charge an outrageous fee to access public information? Suspicious behavior by authorities. Families of the missing have also reported strange encounters with park officials. In some cases, rangers seemed unusually quiet about ongoing searches. Authorities closed investigations quickly, even when evidence was missing. Some families were actively discouraged from speaking to the media. It's almost as if the government doesn't want people asking questions. But why? Possible explanations. There are a few theories about why the NPS might be withholding information. Bureaucratic incompetence. It's possible the NPS simply never created a proper system for tracking missing persons. But this seems unlikely, given that other federal agencies, like the FBI, maintain detailed records. Fear of liability. If the government admitted that large numbers of people go missing in national parks, it could lead to lawsuits or a decline in tourism. Something more sinister. Some believe the government knows more than they're admitting, whether it's about an unknown predator, secret experiments, or something even stranger, a mystery that remains unsolved. Whatever the reason, the lack of transparency only deepens the mystery. If these disappearances are truly just accidents, why not release the records? Why make it so difficult for investigators to uncover the truth? In the next section, we'll explore theories about potential government cover-ups and whether the missing records are part of something much bigger. Section 2: Cover-up theories and missing files. The National Park Service's refusal to release official records on missing persons has led many to ask a troubling question. Is there a cover-up? If these cases were just ordinary disappearances, why is the government so secretive about them? Could there be a hidden reason why these files remain inaccessible? Theory 1: The government knows more than it admits. Some researchers believe that federal agencies are aware of a hidden danger in national parks, but refuse to disclose it. Possible reasons include an unidentified predator, whether it's a rare, undocumented animal or something more sinister. Authorities might be keeping quiet to avoid panic. Underground cave systems. Some missing persons cases occur near large cave networks. Could the government be hiding unmapped tunnels where people disappear? A supernatural or unknown force, as strange as it sounds. Certain disappearances defy logic. Could the government know something we don't about mysterious forces in these areas? Theory 2: National parks are being used for secret experiments. Another theory suggests that some missing persons cases are linked to covert government projects. Could remote wilderness areas be used for classified military testing that accidentally puts civilians at risk? Human experiments involving psychological or biological research? Electromagnetic anomalies that interfere with navigation and memory? While this may seem like pure speculation, there have been real cases of government experiments conducted in secret for decades, like the infamous MK-Ultra mind control program. Theory 3: bureaucratic negligence or fear of lawsuits. A more grounded theory is that the NPS and other agencies simply want to avoid responsibility. If they admit that national parks have an unusually high number of mysterious disappearances, it could lead to massive lawsuits from families of the missing, a decline in tourism, affecting park revenue, pressure to improve safety measures, requiring expensive resources. If negligence or poor record keeping is to blame, then the secrecy is about self-protection, not a grand conspiracy. What are they really hiding? Whether the truth is a hidden danger, government experiments, or simple incompetence, one thing is clear: the government is not being transparent. If these disappearances are just ordinary missing persons cases, why not release the data? In the next section, we'll explore the biggest question of all. Could this be part of a larger, ongoing conspiracy? Section 3: is there a larger conspiracy at play? The missing 411 phenomenon isn't just about unexplained disappearances. It's about how these cases are handled, the lack of transparency, the missing records, and the government's silence have led some to believe that something bigger is at play. Could these cases be connected to a larger conspiracy? 1. The pattern of silence. One of the most suspicious aspects of missing 411 cases is how quickly authorities dismiss them. Families of the missing often report a lack of urgency from law enforcement, minimal media coverage, even when the cases are highly unusual, closed investigations with vague explanations, even when evidence is missing. If these were ordinary disappearances, why are officials so reluctant to discuss them? 2. The role of the federal government. The National Park Service isn't the only agency involved. The FBI has been linked to several cases. But here's where it gets strange. The FBI rarely investigates adult missing persons cases, yet they have shown interest in certain missing 411 cases. When they do get involved, they release little to no information about their findings. Some reports suggest FBI agents have discouraged families from asking too many questions. If the government truly knows nothing, why would federal agents take such a secretive approach? 3. A hidden danger in national parks? Some believe national parks may hold a secret the government doesn't want the public to know. Possible theories include an unknown predator or entity responsible for the disappearances, government projects or secret bases hidden in remote areas, a natural but undiscovered phenomenon, such as magnetic anomalies or environmental hazards. If any of these were true, authorities would have a strong motive to keep them under wraps. 4. A cover-up, or just fear of panic. It's also possible that the secrecy isn't about a grand conspiracy, but rather damage control. If the government admitted that large numbers of people were vanishing under bizarre circumstances, it could lead to public fear and reduced tourism in national parks, a flood of lawsuits from victims' families, a demand for expensive safety measures that the NPS may not be able to afford. Whether the truth is an intentional cover-up or just fear of the unknown, one thing is certain: the government isn't telling us everything. In the next chapter, we'll explore the bigger picture, what we can learn from these cases, and whether we are any closer to finding the truth. Chapter 7: Final Thoughts. Are we any closer to the truth? Section 1. What can we learn from these cases? After examining hundreds of missing 411 cases, one thing is clear. These disappearances are not normal. Whether they result from natural causes, unknown forces, or something more sinister, they follow bizarre patterns that cannot be ignored. But what can we actually learn from these cases? 1. The wilderness is more dangerous than we realize. National parks and remote areas may seem safe, but even experienced hikers have vanished without a trace. These cases teach us that nature is unpredictable, and even familiar trails can become dangerous. The wilderness holds many unknowns, from sudden weather changes to hidden caves and predators. Staying in groups, carrying tracking devices, and being prepared can reduce the risk of getting lost. 2. Authorities are not always transparent. One of the most unsettling aspects of the missing 411 phenomenon is how little information is available. Families searching for answers often face bureaucratic obstacles when trying to obtain missing persons records, minimal media coverage, even in high-profile cases, a lack of official explanations, even when the circumstances seem impossible. This raises an important lesson. We cannot always rely on official sources to provide the full truth. 3. There may be an unknown factor at play. Even with logical explanations, many cases defy our understanding of reality. How do young children travel miles through rough terrain with no injuries? Why do search dogs fail to pick up a scent in so many cases? What causes the eerie silence and sudden weather changes near disappearance sites? These patterns suggest that something we don't yet understand is at work. Whether it's an environmental phenomenon, an unidentified predator, or something stranger, are we any closer to the truth? Despite decades of research, the missing 411 mystery remains unsolved. What we do know is that certain locations have higher rates of mysterious disappearances. The details of these cases challenge conventional explanations. The government's lack of transparency raises more questions than answers. In the next section, we'll discuss how people can protect themselves in the wilderness, and whether these precautions could prevent more unexplained disappearances. Section 2. Precautions to take when exploring national parks. The missing 411 cases remind us that the wilderness is both beautiful and unpredictable. While most trips to national parks are safe, these disappearances highlight the importance of preparation and caution. So, what can you do to reduce the risk of vanishing without a trace? 1. Never hike alone. Many missing 411 victims were last seen alone or separated from their group. To stay safe, always hike with at least one other person. If you do go solo, inform someone of your exact route and expected return time. Check in regularly with friends or family, especially if cell service is available. 2. Carry proper gear and emergency equipment. Even experienced hikers have vanished without a trace, sometimes leaving behind no clues. Essential survival gear includes GPS devices and personal locator beacons (PLBs), technology that can send emergency signals even in remote areas. A whistle and signal mirror, simple tools that can help search teams locate you. Extra food, water, and warm clothing, even for short hikes. 3. Be aware of your surroundings. Many survivors of strange disappearances report feeling uneasy or watched before vanishing. Whether it's a natural instinct or something more mysterious, trust your gut. If the environment suddenly goes silent, take extra caution. Avoid wandering off trails, especially near boulder fields, dense forests, or bodies of water, all locations linked to missing 411 cases. Keep an eye on weather changes, as many disappearances happen before sudden storms or fog. 4. Stay calm if you get lost. Panic can lead to poor decisions. If you ever find yourself lost, stop moving and stay in one place to avoid making the situation worse. Use a whistle or bright-colored clothing to make yourself more visible. Avoid drinking untreated water and focus on conserving energy until help arrives. 5. Know that authorities might not have all the answers. As we've seen, official agencies do not always provide full transparency. If someone goes missing, push for a thorough investigation and keep track of all case details. Utilize independent search efforts, including local hiking groups and private investigators. Document everything, as media attention can sometimes pressure authorities into taking action. Can these precautions prevent another missing 411 case? While no safety measure is 100% foolproof, preparation and awareness significantly reduce the risk of an unexplained disappearance. Whether the cause is human error, environmental dangers, or something more mysterious, one thing is clear. Those who take extra precautions have a much better chance of making it home safely. In the final section, we'll ask the ultimate question. Will we ever uncover the truth behind missing 411? Section 3. Will we ever uncover the truth behind missing 411? The missing 411 phenomenon remains one of the most perplexing mysteries of modern times. Despite extensive research, hundreds of documented cases, and countless theories, we still lack definitive answers. Are these disappearances the result of natural causes, government secrecy, or something beyond human understanding? And more importantly, will we ever uncover the truth? 1. Why hasn't this mystery been solved? There are several key obstacles that make solving the missing 411 cases incredibly difficult. Lack of official data. The National Park Service claims no centralized database exists for missing persons, making it nearly impossible to track patterns. Disorganized search efforts. Many cases involve delayed searches, miscommunication, and search dogs that fail to find a scent. The sheer volume of cases, with hundreds of cases spanning decades and multiple locations, piecing together a single explanation remains elusive. 2. Why do theories keep failing? We've examined various explanations, some logical, others supernatural, but none fully account for the bizarre details found in these cases. Animal attacks? Possible, but they don't explain the lack of footprints, missing clothing, or bodies found in impossible locations. Human abduction? Unlikely in remote areas, with no signs of struggle or evidence of another person's presence. Paranormal forces? Theories about portals, cryptids, or alien involvement remain speculative, lacking tangible proof. If the answer were simple, we would have found it by now. Instead, every new case seems to raise more questions than answers. 3. What needs to happen for the truth to emerge? If we are ever going to solve this mystery, we need more transparency from government agencies about missing persons. In national parks, independent investigations to continue collecting data and analyzing patterns. Advancements in technology, such as AI and satellite tracking, to improve search and rescue efforts. Survivor testimonies to be studied in depth, especially those who return with memory loss or strange experiences. With better data collection, improved investigative techniques, and a more open discussion about these cases, we may finally come closer to the truth. 4. Will we ever have an answer? Maybe, or maybe this is one of those mysteries that will never be fully explained. Some believe the truth is being deliberately hidden, while others think it's simply beyond our current understanding. One thing is certain: people are still vanishing. The patterns are still there, and the questions remain unanswered. Until we uncover the truth, all we can do is stay curious, stay informed, and stay cautious, because the next missing 411 case could happen at any time, to anyone. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.